Well, hello everybody. There you have it. That is the tonight's vote on the House budget resolution, which Trump called one big beautiful bill. It passed the House today, 217, 213. The one nay was Representative Thomas Massey, and the bill will go from there. So, hello everybody. Today is February 25th. It is approximately 9:20 Eastern Standard Time here in East Tennessee. So, so that was the House bill. So, for those who don't know, going up to that, there were several holdouts: Sparts of Indiana, Chip Roy of Texas. They came around. I heard Sparts spoke to Trump about it and so forth. So that's it. So where we go from here? So the Senate is actually doing two bills. Okay, so this House bill is that one big beautiful bill. Okay, so it has everything in it. It has the tax cuts, the extensions of the other tax cuts from 2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Trump's first term expired, among other provisions, what I'll get to. And it deals with spending cuts, debt ceiling, etc. The Senate is passing two bills, which is going to be, which the House bill has also all the priorities. Okay, and then the second Senate bill is going to have basically the tax and spending stuff in a separate bill. So the House bill is going to have to wait. So assuming the two Senate bills pass, then you'll have one House bill, two Senate bills, and then they'll have to reconcile and then have a vote after that. And then they would get it signed into law. Okay, so let's go and let's just do the basic things. I'll give you my spiel on what I think is my opinion on the bill. Okay, so these are the real core things in it. All right. 4.5 trillion tax cuts. What's that? That is your no tax on tips. Awesome. No tax on Social Security. Okay. I think that should be means tested a little bit. You only pay up to 85% of your AGI of what portion of that Social Security is taxed. So it's like, people who get $3, $4, $5 million in retirement income, they're not going to pay tax on that income. Okay, that's not exactly a high stimulus, and that will have possibly an inflationary effect because it's that kind of income that could make a dent. The tips, it's not, because most of the people who rely on tips for their income, they're in the category that usually doesn't pay any income tax at all, just Social Security tax or Medicare tax, okay, which is a payroll tax, okay? So I don't know if I'm agreeing with the no tax on Social Security. I think there should have been a threshold in there as well, and no tax on overtime. Well, some people work insane amount of overtime for a reason, and that could bump them up into the next bracket. So the government's losing some revenues there. Not like I'm worried about the government lose revenue. I'm worried about our deficits and the inflationary effect it has on our deficits by us printing money. Not just printing money and having these deficits, but we have to finance these deficits at higher interest rates than we were in between the financial crisis and up until basically Joe Biden. Okay, so we're refinancing all this all this debt at higher interest rates. So I'm not set on that. If you want to do no tax on overtime, there should have been an adjustment in terms of your income bracket and what that is. Okay, instead of that. That's how I would have handled it and so forth, because I don't want to lose the revenues, especially the no tax on Social Security, because think about it. You get X amount of $1 million. What is that stimulus is? There's people are going to invest it in funds that whatever their advisor tells them to invest in. It could be overseas companies, emerging markets, so forth. It's not like that money is going to be like, oh, now let's do a house remodel and stimulate the local economy. Okay, so I want to be careful, because the fact of the matter is, as you see on this bottom line, we have a goal of $2 trillion in spending cuts. A goal. What does that mean? Okay, I heard there was a 1.4 floor, so it has to be a minimum of 1.5 trillion. But this is 10-year budgeting. Now, hopefully, we grow ourselves out of it, especially unleashing energy and the energy aspect. Okay, how I've explained before in previous videos how energy hits everything, food, etc., all the way up, transportation costs, heating, it goes into everything. So the investment here in energy, which is in this bill, and changing certain rules and regulations, which we'll get from the Trump administration, that could be deflationary. Okay, it could be really good. So hopefully we can grow ourselves out of some of this. Okay, and the CBO projections, you don't even talk about, they're always wrong anyway. So that's it. $100 billion to expand the military. This one I oppose. We don't need to expand the military, especially if you're talking language. Hey, France, 5% GDP. We also know the Europeans are already talking about increasing their military budgets and taking a role because they're scared of the Trump administration pulling out and not being as involved. So they are feeling that. So let them take the burden. That doesn't mean we increase our military budget as well. It's like, hey, great, we can bring troops home from England, from Germany. Maybe we can share the cost of Ramstein Air Base. Maybe you can do some stupid deployments in the Middle East instead of us. Okay, maybe you can get a naval ship or two that can do long patrols in the up to the South China Sea, the Red Sea, instead of it being us all the time. And maybe we can then put that money to lower our deficits and our debts, okay, which would be beneficial on the inflation front to the average American citizen. All right, $100 billion in immigration enforcement. I guess I would be for that one. I would have taken it out of somewhere else because I'm a big fan of just gutting the entire administrative state. You know, this is not cutting our deficits. This is this whole bill. And look at this, $4 trillion debt limit increase. $4 trillion. That's, we know it's a $1 to $2 trillion a year. And these cuts are not going to do that. And then you're adding this additional border spending. Now, this should be a one-time shot. I don't really know how it's prorated over 4 years or 40. But if you're doing immigration enforcement and you do a huge chunk in year 1, year 2 of Trump's administration, you shouldn't need as much money going forward. So, but yeah, where's get rid of the Department of Education? Where is streamlining agencies? Where is all this stuff? We all know from the USAID gravy train that, again, these congressmen are just not ready to do it. Do I think this is better than what we would have got if Kamala Harris was elected? Oh, absolutely. Is this better than the trajectory? Yes. But here's the key element. We spent $6 trillion due to COVID, and our spending levels are going to be the same as they were during COVID. We should go back to pre-COVID spending levels. We locked it in. And actually, Kevin McCarthy, Speaker Johnson, and then we're doing it again, is locking in the COVID level spending for no apparent reason whatsoever, just to add deficits. Now we're going to get growth. We're going to get, mostly due to regulations and some of this, we are going to get some cuts over the time, but we're not bringing down, we're still going to have over $1 trillion deficits over this. Because if you cut $2 trillion, but you're adding $300 billion, especially in year 1, you're at 1.8 to 2 trillion now. What's that? You maybe have a 1.6 trillion dollar deficit you're adding to the debt instead of 200 instead of $2 trillion. Okay, what's that? That's not going to be enough. Maybe you grow out of it, you increase revenues, maybe it's 1.4. Okay, maybe the Doge savings comes into play, but then they should make that kind of permanent in this budget. So we know that this agency was wasting 24% of their budget. Well, then cut that budget by 24% because Doge says this is the waste. Okay, have it mirror. Then you get down to 1.1 trillion maybe, and you only have $1 trillion, and then you could grow out of it, and then your GDP, debt to GDP ratio shrinks, and that's the key you want, right? Trump during his administration held it around 103, 104, 105% until the COVID explosion. Okay, we're at 130, 135. You can't even get into the European Union with that kind of debt to GDP ratio. Now, granted, none of those countries are the prime reserve currency and have dollars used and all this euro dollar system and everything involves that involves U.S. debt and U.S. dollars. That gives us advantages, but that shouldn't give us a blank check. We are going to be better under this bill than before as a nation, in my opinion, but it is nowhere near where we need to be. And just to survive, the tax cuts have to be expired. Absolutely. Extended, I apologize, not expired. So that's my thought. I mean, goal of 2 trillion. So it's absurd. It should be much higher than that. Okay, we're talking about, how about 10 trillion over 5 years, maybe, or 8 trillion over 4 years, and get our budget down to under 5 trillion, 5.5 maybe. So we're running only like $500 billion deficits. Okay, that would be game changing. All right. So moving on. So if you all know that Trump had this mineral deal that he signed with Ukraine, recently, it was a minerals deal for Ukraine. There's no security guarantees, which is really key. You can't have the security deal because that will just tie us into that. So that being said, Boris Johnson's do it, but I like what he says. He says, yes, it's extortionate, but looked at it one way, but so was Lend-Lease in 1941. That was talking about basically how we ended up replacing the British Empire's prime reserve currency with the Bretton Woods and everything like that, and what we basically Britain had to pay for all those things during the war. But that's it. But here's the one key that I think people have. I have brought this up in another video, but it's with Britain out. This is the core of Ukraine's resources. Now, all up in here, this is Sumy, Kharkiv, Oblast, oil, gas. This whole gray is under Russian control. Okay? Up here to the north is parts of Kharkiv, Lugansk, Donetsk here in the the bulge here, Zaporozhye, the southwest, and the further southwest is Kherson. But if you look at it, the rare earths and the precious metals, they're all in here. They're in Donetsk and Lugansk. That's why these cities were all industrial. They're ores. Because that's where the energy was. That was one of the problems. Ukraine wanted the all the rare and resources of the Donbass, but they didn't want the people. Okay, because they were ethnic Russians. So what are you trading away? Especially if Russia continues to move west. We don't need their gas. We don't need their oil. There's some precious metals here, but we have other accesses to precious metal in the United States and in other locations. Certain ores we have plenty of. So the rare earths are all in here. So what kind of deal is it? Putin made a comment today. He's like, it doesn't affect us, So I don't really know how that's going to work, and I'm worried about us tying us in there if we have an investment militarily. So, as I said, another video that was said by the University of Bremen did a study in Germany about they were going to run out Ukraine of material weapons basically by late summer, early fall. Well, Wall Street Journal concurs. Without U.S. aid, Ukraine would lose some of its most sophisticated weapons. Well, the article goes on to say, without increase, their supply of weapons is going to run out by late summer, fall. Okay, if you're Russia, knowing that, and now it's being reported by a Murdoch-owned publication, you got to be saying to yourself, if you're the Russians, why am I making a deal? I know they're going to run out. If I'm a Ukrainian soldier, well, I'm going to fight hard. I'm going to desert or resist or do whatever, knowing that, it's supposed to be over in weeks, according to President Trump. Okay, and if you're also Russian, knowing that, well, let's deny the West as much of these materials, these minerals that Trump just signed a deal with Zelensky with.
And I know people have felt the impact of this conflict through rising bills and prices. But unless Ukraine is properly protected from Putin, then Europe will only become more unstable, and that will hurt us even more.
So that was Keir Starmer. So he basically just said in that video, screw you, people of Britain, Ukraine's more important. It's kind of what Pence said when he was running in the primaries to Tucker Carlson. It wasn't my concern. That's how these people are. Okay? They think defending Ukraine. Now, just remember the two parts. Russia's going to invade Poland and Germany and Western Europe. We got to increase our military. But at the same time, we just give a few weapons to Ukraine, they're going to beat Russia. What? Does that make any sense? Of course not. These people are delusional. They live in like some fantasy land. Okay, and if you ever see the British press over there, this Ukraine war, they're the worst. Okay, but this guy said, screw you. You're going to pay more. You're going to do this because we're going to keep this war going. I mean, this is good. I can't wait to see the meeting said between Starmer and Trump. But so a little German election wrap up. Okay, so these are the final results. CDU on at 28.5, AfD at 20.8, SPD 16.4, and the Greens 11.6. And this is the regional area. Now the East German, clearly outside of Berlin. Berlin went to the left and to the CDU on the west. And then the rest of the country went to the AfD. And then outside of a couple little spots where AfD won and the left, SPD, whatever, and the Greens a couple, it was all dominated by the CDU and CSU. Now also, I saw another map that said where a lot of the migrants are going, the illegal immigrants are going, they're going into the East German areas, by the way. So just like, because the wealthy suburbs don't experience much, but man, if you live in these more middle class, old East German communities, you're getting impacted a lot more. All right, this is a chart on the elections that were CDU, CSU. They had 26.7. They went up to 33% of the seats. Now, you will always get more percentage of the seats higher than your percentage of the vote because if there are parties that don't make the 5% threshold. So it's basically their total, you take the parties of their total vote and that don't make the less than 5%, and then the rest is divided up. So if you have like 4 parties that got 8% of the vote, but none of them made the 5%, then it's 92% of the vote of the remaining parties. So that means they will get a higher share. It'll be like getting 108% kind of a thing. So if that's the case, AfD has the hugest jump from 10.4% of the seats to 24.1. SPD goes down to 19. The Greens go down to 13.5. All right. Now here's the final here. All right. These are the total number of seats. 208 CDU, 152 AfD, 120 SPD, 85 Greens. The left 64. Now these are here's the key. Those seats would have dropped. The party BSW of Sarah Vonkenect got like 4.95% of the vote and failed to get it. If she would have hit 5%, they would have gotten like 34 seats. And that would have dropped the amount down because you need 316 seats to form a coalition. So CDU would have dropped below 200, SPD would have dropped to like 110 or something like that, and that would not have been enough to hit the 316. Every party has ruled out working with the AfD, period. So they would have had to go into a grand coalition, what they call the Kenya coalition, CDU, SPD, and Greens. They call it Kenya because that's the colors of the Kenyan flag, black, red, and green. And they would have had to have done that. The left is too hard left. They wouldn't have done that. They would have went with the Greens, which means that the SPD and Greens that combined didn't even get 30% of the vote because they're the outgoing coalition now. They're going to be in the coalition with CDU. But FDP and BSW didn't make it, so these are your numbers here. So CDU is going to be able to go into a coalition with the SPD. They're going to have 328 seats. Okay, and I heard them. We have to get tough on immigration. Mertz said that. The new chancellor is going to be Mertz and all that stuff. But SPD doesn't want that. So they're going to be pretty precarious. So the leading opposition is going to be from the center-right populists and right-wing populists, the AfD. Okay, with the hard left on the other side, squeezing them out with the Greens. So they're going to be all sorts of, this is going to be very precarious with the AfD being that strong. Now that would only represent about less than 50%. The true representing over 50% of the electorate would have been the CDU and the AfD, but they don't want to get in there. in that, And I was watching the German election results on TV and stuff. They are petrified. They really think Russia's just going to steamroll, and they're wham because Trump's, not doing what Biden did in Ukraine and selling everything out. Like, they're in a panic mode over there. So, I mean, but hey, if they build up their military and we can reduce it. But we're not. We're going up higher again, too. So, now with that note, so that's where we are with the German elections, but it's good, so forth. Our side, the populist movement is increasing just like it did in France. So we have control in Austria, Slovenia, Hungary, Holland. We made huge, big gains in France and now in Germany, and some gains in both Portugal and in Spain with Vox. So that's pretty good where we're going there. But, if this coalition doesn't work, I mean, they're going to want to get rid of green stuff. SPD is not up to that. They're going to want to do tax cuts. SPD is not in bed with that. And they're going to want to get tougher on the immigration issue. SPD is not on board with that. And if they try to make really weak deals with the SPD, AfD is going to hammer them. And maybe they'll peel off some CDU members. But, what I would hope is that let's get another snap election, shows you CDU couldn't get it done, and then if they can finally hit that threshold and gain that extra 7.8% and beat CDU. That would be awesome. Hopefully by year's end, but you could only wish. Anyway, so that's my wrap up for today. What's going on? I thought we'll just end with a little bit of just checking, see if we have any breaking news on anything. All right. Secretary Kennedy met with doctors today to discuss whole person patients first care. Together, imagine that, What a concept. Treat the person, not the symptom. 1 million workers responded to Musk's email, Levitt says. So 2 million government workers don't exist, don't know how to check email, can't be bothered to write a 5-minute email. That's awesome. Just in, Nick Sorden is reporting. Just in, Kash Patel and the FBI have launched an investigation into former director James Comey spying on President Trump's 2016 campaign. Just this is coming. Well, absolutely. Absolutely you do that. I mean, they basically let a coup, a deep state coup, and a lie, using a dossier that was foreign sourced, paid for by McCooey and the Hillary campaign. That's it. You cannot exercise within the executive branch more power than the elected president. Period. Data Republican. We have sitting members of Congress that actually sit on the NGOs right now. They vote in Congress for money for themselves, and they sit in the same NGOs that they're voting to get money for. It is a huge conflict of interest, and it's buried very deep. Yeah, well, no crap. That's why we're trying to break it down. Why do we have many federal employees? Well, there you go. So, that's about that. Release the JFK files, all about that. So, anyway. So, that's my video for tonight. I just wanted to give you an update on what happened, official results, and what I think is going to happen going forward in the German elections. I want to give you my opinion on that deal signed with Trump and Zelensky with the minerals and how that's going to work based upon what I knew about it, and give you a quick opinion on what's going on with the GOP budget. So, and what's going to go there next with a couple little updates. So, you can follow me on X at Patriot Planner 1 and on Getter at Patriot Planner. And if you like this video, please follow, like, and share. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. And I'll probably put another video out at the end of the week. All right. Talk to you later.